Before the season even kicks off, soccer fans are already making predictions. Who wins the league? Who qualifies for Europe? And who's lifting the trophy at season's end? On Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market platform, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code CUP26 to get $10 when you trade 10. KALSHI, Kalshi. Trade the beautiful game. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory.
Hey, I like your new RAV4.
Thanks, yours too.
What does RAV stand for anyway?
To me, it's the Remarkably Advanced Vehicle.
Really? To me, it's the Runway Approved Vehicle for its amazing style.
What about Remarkably Adaptable Vehicle because of its versatile cargo space?
Or Really Admired Vehicle?
Oh, or Really Awesome Vehicle.
It really is the recreational activity vehicle. The stylish 2026 Toyota RAV4 Limited. What's your RAV4?
Find the biggest voices in sport on the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Like, under, the cosh. It's the only place to get down to the nitty-gritty of what really goes on in a football dressing room. Interviewing footballers weekly to hear the best stories straight from the horse's mouth.
And we've got a new series coming out every Monday from the 3rd of August to the 21st of September.
All you have to do, search Under the Cosh wherever you get your podcasts. Don't sleep on it.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Rain again, and he's got it!
Gavin was closing in. Oh, Gavin has scored!
Abdul Osman against Brad Jones to put Liverpool out of the cup, and Northampton 3! Northampton get it!
Hello and welcome to It's All Cobblers to Me. I'm Charles, and today we're looking ahead to the 26-27 season with a couple of Northampton's most optimistic people, with outside pundits seemingly writing the Cobblers off, with some of them even declaring Northampton relegation fodder. I'm hoping that my guests today have a little bit more inside knowledge to sway their opinions into the positive. So welcome to the podcast, BBC Northampton's Jake Sharpe and the Chronicle and Echo's James Heneghan. Good day to both of you. Thank you so much for being here. Can we please start this chat positively? We're not getting relegated again, are we, Jake?
I'd like to think not. I personally don't think so.
A bit more positivity, Jake.
Yeah. Okay, right. So start again. Yeah, not a chance. No, I'd like to think not. I personally don't think so, but I can understand the arguments made by others as to why they would see the Cobblers might be in trouble, just because obviously that we know the statistics about the teams that come down from League One actually genuinely struggle in League Two anyway, let alone when you've come down on the back of the run that the Cobblers have come down in. So I get that. But from what I've seen in pre-season, from the signs they've made so far, and when I look at other clubs, I'm not too concerned, but I would like to see some positive signs early in the season to just make sure that that doubt's gone away.
I went to Jake first, James, because I was scrolling back through Instagram to this time last year just to see what both of you guys had said about the Cobblers then, the last time that we did one of these. And there was a reel there of Jake basically saying, yeah, some people have got us to finish 24th in League One. That's ridiculous.
Crazy.
So,
Never.
Yeah, I just thought we'll just get that out of the way straight away. James, I'm of course talking about the Not the Top 20 podcast, a podcast that I really, really like. I think Ali and George are very, very clued up. They're very knowledgeable, mostly because of the fact that they actually ask fans their own opinions and they try and gauge their opinion based on what is happening elsewhere, because following 72 football clubs is impossible. You can't do it. And despite one of them being an Oxford United fan, they're actually pretty decent lads. So were you a bit surprised them having us as 23rd? Spoiler alert, if you haven't listened to Not the Top 20, but they've got us 23rd, only above Accrington Stanley. It can't be right, can it? Can't be right.
I was surprised. It did shock me when I listened to that. I did think they'd have them quite low, because I know they are big on this theory about relegated teams from League One and how difficult it is. And obviously, as Jake said, the nature of the relegation last season in particular. But it's what you say there. It's impossible to keep across 72 teams, as well as George and Ali do. They're going to have blind spots, and I think some of the comments they made probably suggested that they did. I think they described McGeehan as a talisman and Dyche as like talking as his will be first choice centre back, which I don't think it will be to start the season anyway. So it's hard. I don't blame them. They've got to put someone there, and you can't keep across all 72 teams. It was a surprise to me. I thought they'd have them sort of more in the 14th to 19th sort of region. But yeah, I echo Jake. I don't think at this moment I'm not worried about relegation. My opinion, my figures might change in a few weeks, but right now I don't think that's likely. That's possibly top of possibility, but I don't think it's likely.
Yeah, good. I think we're all probably on around about the same sort of page. I think I've got us roughly sort of middle of the pack, not doing anything spectacular up or downwards of mid-table. I know, James, you've already brought out your cheeky 1-24 that you had to go at, just basically copying the rest of the pundits.
Yeah, don't take that seriously. It took me about 20 minutes. I don't have a clue what's going on with 23 other clubs, but I barely know what's going on at Sixfield. So, I just think, I think they just need to start the season okay. They don't need an amazing start. They just need an okay start. Just win a couple of early games. Everyone calms down a bit. You get into the season. You build from there. I had them 10th in that, but I'm more in that sort of 10th to 14th, 15th range. I think obviously it can change with more signings or whatever happens between now and the end of the window. But yeah, I think mid-table is sort of about where I'm having them at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's probably the sensible thing. I don't see many people, Cobblers fans on social media, going too ridiculously high or ridiculously low. There's always a couple of outliers, as we know, because that's the nature of the beast, so to speak. But I feel like over this pre-season, it's been a bit of a... I know that Chris Hogg hasn't necessarily had much of a say in who we've played and how many games there's been and such, but there seems to have been a nice mixture of sort of higher division, higher rated teams, if you like, in terms of, Coventry have won promotion to the Premier League last season, so they're on a high. Birmingham, who are just consistently on a high and looking to improve year on year now. And then you've got the likes of Southend, Solihull Moors that are more, and Cambridge, of course, who are sort of more around our level that we're going to be playing over the course of the next 10, 11 months or so. And it does feel like, although it's been hard games against the likes of Leicester and Coventry and Birmingham, they've been good run-outs for us. You guys have seen the games more than I have, I would say. And then we've shown our pedigree, I think, a little bit, that we can, I suppose, be okay in amongst League Two this season with those wins over Southend and Solihull as well, Jake. I mean, I get it. We want to get that monkey off our back, so to speak, of all these defeats in a row and everything. I was very cheeky and asked on Saturday how many defeats in a row is that competitively after the defeat at Leicester. I was only on the wind up. There you go. See, we know it's true. But I say that very tongue in cheek with it. It would be good to get off to a good start. I suppose really even a draw would set us down on Saturday, right? And then we can go from there.
Draw and good performance, really. That would be fine. A win would be great. Obviously, just because people like us, and Chris Hogg absolutely hates this, will be saying, 14 competitive games. And he will say, well, hang on a minute, there's only been 2 this season. I wasn't even here last year. Can you stop talking about last season? Which he's said on multiple occasions already.
Doesn't stop you though, Jake, does it? Doesn't stop you.
No, it doesn't. It's going to take me a lot to get over last season, put it that way. But in terms of how they've looked, I mean, in terms of pre-season, if you just on results, they've done how you'd expect them to do against the calibre of opposition, absolutely fine. You look at the games they could have won, and you're looking at maybe could they win Cambridge, Solihull, Southend. You get 7 points if you want to look at it that way out of 9. And the other teams, they put in some good performances, had some ropey minutes there. A couple were like the first week of pre-season at Leicester's training ground. I'd like to take more away in the way they've set up. They have a clear identity, which is pretty good considering how early Chris Hogg is into his reign, and they're still bringing players in, etc. That identity is clear to see. They look well coached, and not just in look organised to keep clean sheets way. They look well coached they are set up to score goals in a particular way as well. Whether they have the attacking personnel to execute that, I think is a big question. But yeah, I've liked what I've seen. I think they look fine. I think they look absolutely fine. Competitive games are the real indicator. They did well against Leicester. Again, they should have been at a goal up inside a minute, and that may have changed things. But it's the league season that's the bread and butter. It's the monkey off the back. They need to get in August. They just need to have a good start with at least a win, with at least a couple of good performances. So Cobblers fans can breathe a bit of a sigh of relief at the end of August and go, okay, I think they're going to be all right.
Yeah.
Not necessarily top 6, top 3, but I think they're going to be all right. So yeah, that's where my head is at the minute.
What do you make of Chris Hogg, James? Because he's so new to Northampton. He's got no real affinity with us from previous at all. So a completely new start for the club. But then he's brought Chris Doig in with him as an assistant. I suppose almost you could sort of say to bridge the gap that he's kind of left. But what have you made of him when you've been speaking to him over the last few weeks when you've had the opportunity?
Yeah, I really like him. I'd say out of everything to come out pre-season and the summer so far, he's arguably been the biggest positive and most encouraging part of it. Just the way he speaks, the way he comes across. He's quite a normal bloke, which is not always. It's a bit of a rarity in football. You get all sorts, but he just comes across normal. He's very much a people person. You can tell that. Like we'll do an interview with him, and then once we finish the interview, he'll just chat to us about the game or about certain players or something else entirely. You know, he likes talking to people. He likes that communication, that being on the grass, working with players, coaching. He's a proper coach. He's, an out-and-out coach. That's what he wants to do. Just be on the grass, work with the players, improve players. And I think that's what they need. I think what he brings more than anything is clarity. Like Jake said, he's got a clear sort of system, a clear way he wants to play. He's also adaptable and he'll adapt to the players he's got. But he's come in with a very clear system, and the players have said that themselves. It's really interesting speaking to. I remember James Maxwell, Jack Perkins said something on Saturday as well, and there's someone else as well. I can't remember who it was, but they said that they really have enjoyed working for him. And now, obviously, a player's going to say that. And a player's not going to say, "I don't like a player for the manager," but it's what they say is that they really enjoy the fact he's so detail orientated, and that it gives them a clear idea, like a picture in their mind when they go onto a football field, where they should go, how they should play, what they're going to come up against, sort of different scenarios that might come up in a game. And I think that's what they need. They need that clarity because there's going to be that slight hangover effect from last season. If there's a bit of a tough period in the game or they start a bit slowly or whatever, if you've got that, right, this is my job, this is my role in the team, the manager backs me, the manager's told me what I need to do, I really think that helps. And when the pressure comes on in those difficult moments, I think that's a big thing. And that's clear. His coaching pedigree speaks for itself. However you speak to in the game, wherever you read quotes, people say he's a really good coach. That doesn't necessarily mean you make a really good manager. We've seen lots of good coaches not be good managers. But yeah, he's spoken well. He's come across really well. He talks about the connection with the fans as well. I think that's important. He clearly wants to build. That was a big thing when he was at his previous clubs. That sort of bond with the fans, even as an assistant manager to Liam Manning. So yeah, he said all the right things. The team, like Jay said, the team looks solid, looks good. Obviously, a long, long way to go, but as a platform, as a starting place, I think, yeah, I don't think you could have asked much more of him so far.
I think, I remember back to sort of 12 months ago, and an awful lot of what was being said by the players and coming out of the club and through the press was about the fitness regime that they'd all been put through. I think I remember Sam Hoskins saying something like it was the hardest pre-season he'd had. And I get the fact that part of that was down to the fact that what happened the seasons before, plural, with the fitness and having a lot of injuries and things like that. This season, we seem to be a lot more, I've heard, Jake, you've talked a lot about that, out of possession shape and the clarity, as you're saying, in the way that Chris Hogg wants to play. That's more coming from you as an observer of it than actually coming straight out of the club and then being regurgitated this time around. I mean, in a way, I feel a little bit as a fan like there is that little reset, that there's no kind of being almost trying to force the fan base to believe that there is something, going to be better than it was last season. It is kind of like saying, we're just not going to talk about last year, apart from when it's basically forced upon us by people in the media. Just ignore it, and then we will just basically think about the present and the future alone. And therefore, you're not really getting the sound bites, I guess. And from a fan, that feels actually quite nice and refreshing. And I don't know. I'm not trying to compare him to anybody that's gone before, but I do feel like Chris Hogg is just a bit more open, I suppose, and wants to have that conversation and wants to actually talk to the fan base as opposed to just talking to you guys and then letting us hear, if that makes sense. He's open to, by the sounds of it, talking directly to us. Maybe Chris Doig is a bit on the other sort of way of that. I don't think he quite necessarily likes the limelight of being an assistant manager and having to talk and doing that part of the job. But it's nice to see Doigy back, and Jake, the awkwardness of you calling him Doig on the Coffee Show was brilliant.
I hated that so much. Why do they both have to be called Chris? Why do I have to distinguish between them?
I mean, it could have been worse. You could have been like just calling Chris Hogg all night.
It could have been worse. It could have been Hoggy and Doigy, couldn't it? That would have been terrible.
That's the song on the terrace now. That's the new Colin and John.
Sounds like a 1970s detective series, isn't it? Hogg and Doig.
I like it though. I can imagine that Doigy is more of the enforcer than Hogg, I think, and will probably be the one that, I don't know, maybe shouts a bit more. I'm interested in the dynamic, and I'm not necessarily asking you guys for this, but just as a conversation, what the dynamic is going to be like with like Samo, for instance. We've not really seen Colin at all. I've not been at the game, so therefore I definitely haven't seen him. But I wonder whether he's now actually stepping up into his technical director role and almost staying there. And the last 6 months were probably enough for anybody, let alone Colin.
Well, he was in a suit on Saturday at the King Power.
Really?
So that tells you. I think that is he's not on the grass anymore. Colin Calderwood. He's technical director, not technical director / first team coach / assistant manager / kind of caretaker boss, as he ended up being last year.
Yeah.
I get the impression. I don't know about you, Joe. I do get the impression it's very much the kind of Hogg and Doig show. And then obviously Samo with a key input and James Alger and the fitness staff as well. But I get the impression it's very much those two who are leading the way. Pre-season friendly the other week against Birmingham, Samo was sat in that kind of high position in the stand, kind of radioing down.
Yeah.
And the old Mark Richards position. But it's Hogg and Doig on the touchline. It's Hogg and Doig. And I think, like you say, you could hear it from the Cobblers show the other day. And what James said there, Hogg, very people person, very coaching, kind of softly. I no doubt he's got that authoritative side to him. You have to get a certain way. But Doig has very much got that. I mean, what was Chris Hogg was saying that Doig was running them into the ground in pre-season, just laughing while it was happening. Yeah. As this kind of sadist next to him. But yeah, you've got to have that balance. And I do think can't forget either, they've never worked together in a senior capacity.
No.
So they're still finding their way in terms of how their dynamic is, but it does seem quite a good fit already.
It's interesting for me that you say it feels like it's Hogg and Doig. They're going to be the front, if you like, of the coaching staff. We won't really hear as much or see as much necessarily of the others as we have done in the last, say, 3 or 4 seasons, I guess, under Brady and then Nolan as well. I wonder how much of that is because Chris Hogg wants it that way, and then how much it's almost like the club just sort of going, no, we're going to reset without it actually necessarily meaning that people have to move on. And therefore it's an all-round kind of, we're all going to do this as a decision. Colin's going to go upstairs. We'll stop seeing him. We might come on the Cobblers show every now and again to talk about how many washing machines the club have bought recently or whatever it is that he's going to introduce. But on the whole, it'll be the two Chris's that will be there and really sort of, I suppose, taking the heat off of everybody else. For that sort of way of looking at it. James, signings-wise, I've had a few, and it feels a little bit to me like this season, obviously not because of it was necessarily terrible, but it is just the way it's happened this year. Feels a bit, I don't know, better in terms of the signings have happened in much more fluidity this time around, where it felt like maybe there was a big batch at the start last season, pre-season. nothing for ages, and then there was another couple that inevitably you then get people turning around and saying, well, they were just the pick of what was left, essentially. This year seems to have been much more, it's happening as and when, over a number of weeks. More additions have been made, and of course we've still got at least sort of 3 weeks left of the transfer window, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, again, that goes back to Chris Hogg's clarity. I think he sort of knows what he wants. He has a clear idea of how he sees football, how he wants his team to set up, how he wants his team to play, and therefore he has clear sort of attributes, I guess, that he wants in his team. I think athleticism is one he'd always mentioned in interviews, and with that, when you come in with such a clear idea, I think it makes it easier when you're trying to buy players, when you're trying to look at players, because like, this is what I want, and then I'll have a list of players for each position, and I'll go through that. But I also think it's a bit random, some of it as well. Chris said himself in an interview recently that every summer you'll go through a 2-week phase where it's really busy. Suddenly you get 3 or 4 players in, and you think, oh, this is great, we're making progress. And then 2 weeks later, no one comes in, and it's like, oh, what's going on here? And I think it's just the way it is. There's so many factors, so many variables, so much is out of the club's control, out of Chris Hogg's control. And also, you have to decide when to move on from the targets. No doubt they'll have their top targets, but then they'll also have a row of targets underneath that. And it's like, okay, this one's taking too long, let's move on to the next one. And I think they do have quite a good sort of, pause the last 12 months being at some recruitment, and that they do have like a clear structure, I think, with Alex Latimer and Colin Calderwood, and then James White and Calvin Thomas, which really helps. I think Hogg can come in, sort of slot into that. He made his own sort of few tweaks and a few changes, and I've seen like Mark Richards left, for example. But yeah, I think the structure's there, and the fact that Hogg knows what he wants and his clear idea is definitely a good thing, and that's helped bring the signings in. But at the same time, he'll probably say that there's 3 or 4 out there that he's desperate for, that he's still waiting on, and I think at some point in the next 2.5, 3 weeks it will pick up again. We seem to be in a bit of a lull at the moment, but I think that's quite common at this time as the season's just starting. But there's definitely more to come.
Anyone catching your eye so far, James, in particular, out of those new signings that we've had?
Well, Matthew Warhurst is definitely the most interesting one. That's not a signing Cobblers really make, is there?
No. I thought it was like an alternative universe that we'd suddenly appeared into.
When I got the message about that, I was like, is this right? This is right. It sends this to someone else. Send it to me by mistake. Yeah, so he's a 19-year-old, 3-year deal. Manchester City banged in the goals for City. I think it'd be naive to expect him to score 20 goals this season and be sold for over £1 million next summer. He is a young kid who is going to learn his way as the season goes. A bit like Ethan Wheatley did. We start to see Jake Evans last season as he sort of progressed and developed, kind of that type of thing. But he's their player, which is the big thing. Like, he's not going to record. He's not going to be, that's it. He goes back to his parent club at the end of the season, never see him again. Like, if he shows that steady improvement over the next 6 months, year, then it's going to be really, really exciting to see that journey. Also, Logan Briggs, I'd say, another one who's looked really sharp in pre-season. Sort of a tenacious, hard-working, left-sided player. Got a bit of flair on the ball. He's been on a few. It's one of the players. He's deceptively quick. He doesn't look like an out-and-out winger. He's not really an out winger. He's sort of tucks inside, but he's got a bit of pace and he can dribble past players. I'm excited to see more of him. I think the 2 fullbacks look very solid. I think the big thing with them is their injury records. Either have had the best injury records over the last few years, but if they can stay fit, they look both look very, very good players. I thought they were both excellent on Saturday. I think Lee Evans as well. Everything I've read about him suggests that he should be, for this level, he should be a very, very competent, solid midfielder. Sort of control the game a little bit, dictate the play. You saw, again, even in the 10 minutes on Saturday, saw some lovely passes from him. Connor Evans as well, he's looked pretty handy. I don't want to get too excited because it's pre-season, and there's so many times you see a player in pre-season, you think, oh god, this is amazing, what a signing, and then I'm on pre-season, you're like, oh, okay, I got too excited. But yeah, I mean, on paper, and the goalkeeper as well, of course, that Peacock. Yeah, on paper, it looks pretty solid additions. I like them. I like the mix as well. You've had some older ones, some younger ones, a couple of loans. But my phone's gone. The proof will be in the pudding, and we'll see over the next few few weeks and months how they get on.
Yeah, I like the fact that James didn't leave you anyone to talk about there, Jake.
No, I thought
sorry, James.
Let's just go through everybody.
Just named every single new signing, which is unbelievable.
I mean, he didn't mention Jody Jones, but I mean, maybe we'll talk about that next week. You never know.
I don't think he will be mentioning Jody Jones, if I'm honest.
Oh, no, don't say that, Jake. Be positive.
Before the season even kicks off, soccer fans are already making predictions. Who wins the league? Who qualifies for Europe? And who's lifting the trophy at season's end? On Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market platform, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code CUP26 to get $10 when you trade 10. KALSHI, Kalshi. Trade the beautiful game. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory.
If your business runs on 5 different apps, 12 browser tabs, and one spreadsheet that everyone's afraid to touch, it's probably time for Odoo. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that connects every part of your business into one powerful, easy-to-use platform. So instead of wasting time switching between disconnected systems, your entire business works together in real time. Your team moves faster, your data stays accurate, and you can actually focus on growing your business. Let one unified system run your entire business. From the first opportunity to the final payment, everything works together in one place. Whether you're a small business or managing a large operation, Odoo gives you one flexible platform built to grow with you. Learn more at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
Going back to the Matty Warhurst thing, I thought it was quite interesting. I mean, I'm not going to put you guys in a position here. I hope I'm not going to. But when I think it was Kelvin Thomas said something about how like we'd kind of learned from previously with having loans that can there go back, and be recalled in sort of the January sort of window, and like it happened with Ethan last season. I did sort of read it or hear it and go, it's all well and good sort of saying that, or we've learned from that as if it was a mistake, as if we could have maybe have gone and bought Ethan Wheatley last summer, and other players that we've had before. I mean, I like the fact that we're sort of putting that little positive spin on it of, look, we've gone and bought a striker who's young, who's got pedigree, and he's ours, and the only way he'll leave is if we get a really big amount of money coming our way to compensate us. But at the same time, I did feel a little bit like, maybe you should just forget about what happened with Ethan Wheatley completely and utterly, and anybody else that came before as well. Because, I mean, in a way, it's kind of like, I know Chessie on our episodes will always be talking about how we should have just thrown whatever it was, 400,000 at Dara Costello and whatever wages he wanted instead of letting him go to Wigan. But the facts are that, well, I suppose the facts are we're not prepared to take that risk. Whereas this time around, it's almost like, oh, hang on a minute, suddenly the risk is okay to take.
But I think it might be a sign of the idea that a consolidation is okay this season. That they would be prepared to buy a young player who will have to find his feet and Warhurst isn't, they'd like him to be, but it isn't, he's in and gone, right, Matty, we need 20 goals because we need to be in the top 3 this year. He can kind of find his feet as the season goes on. The players brought in, be it on loan or permanent, over the last 3, 4, 5 seasons have been either to fire them out of League 2 or to fire them away from the relegation zone in League 1. There's that kind of pressure to perform straight away. It's the old academy argument, isn't it, in terms of why is it so difficult to bring young players through at Northampton Town? Well, 1, you've got to have the talent, and 2, because you've got to have a manager who's going to throw them in either a relegation fight or a promotion battle, because that's by and large what the Cobblers are involved in. So with Warhurst, maybe they see it as that the 3-year deal. Now he's turning 20 in a couple of months' time, and he can find his feet and bed his way in, and they won't be super reliant on him to score all of the goals. They need goals from elsewhere. I mean, he's already scored a couple in pre-season and a couple of tap-ins, and he's given you, with his movement and the goals he's scored, he's given you every indication that he's a goal scorer. that's not solely down to him. People have to create for him. And that is one of the biggest maybe gaps at the minute for the Cobblers. And it was shown on Saturday as well. Some of their decision making and quality in the final third is really poor. Some of those players can get better. Some of those players we've been watching for 12 months or even more than that. And that's what they are. So I imagine they'll want to add in that section. And just a final point on Warhurst, actually. Credit to him, because one of the first things he said was, what a switched on player, what a switched on young man. He's playing for Manchester City, he's under contract. And at the start of the season, he's basically gone, look, I'm going to turn 20. I've not played any senior football yet. Am I going to be involved? Am I going to be a Manchester City player? No, I'm not at this stage of my career. Could I go out on loan? Potentially, but what's the point? I'm going to come back and still not play for Manchester City. So he said it would mean more for him to play for a club that he's actually signed to. I think that's a really good attitude to have. That's a really refreshing way. And that gives me confidence that he will be able to step up and deal with kind of League Two football in a professional environment as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point, to be fair. And I do think that there is something at the Manchester City academy level that almost instills that into some of the players. You look at the players that have done it before, that have moved away from City, albeit at a higher level, the ones that I can obviously think about, and have then gone on to have, first team experience regularly, like Jadon Sancho going to Borussia Dortmund, for example, with that. But yeah, I do think that there's reasons to be optimistic for this year. I don't want to get carried away either. I think you're right, both of you. Well, Jake, definitely you're right. The Cobblers seem to be either fighting at one end of the table or the other pretty much every single season. It's certainly been that way for a good decade, I would probably suggest at the moment. And it might be, I don't want to say it would be nice just to have a comfortable year, but in a way, it needs a settler almost. We need that reset of a year.
Reset. That's the word I was going to use. Reset. Like, it just feels like, obviously it'd be great if they challenge promotion and finish in the playoffs or whatever, but just like you said, undramatic sort of, bumbling around in mid-table. Chris Hogg can get his feet under the table and learn about the level, learn about his team, learn about the club. But obviously, it depends on new investors if that gets approved and they come in, and that gives them a season to sort of, learn about the club themselves. And I just agree. I just think that's kind of what they need, just this boring sort of mid-table season, and then it gives them a platform to kick up from there. Yeah, it's never boring with the Cobblers.
No, and be like a team. Be like a team where if they finish, say, like 11th at the end of the season, that because of the way that Hogg is and how, like James was saying earlier about how clear his identity is, that you can see what he wants from his team in terms of in possession, out of possession, kind of from defence midfield into attack. And you can go, yeah, this bit's working well, this bit's working well, this bit's working well. They just need to improve that bit, and that will become 11th to a top 7 challenge. That's how at the minute, that's jumping ahead. That's how I see this season going. That they might finish 11th because they draw too many games because they're not sharp enough in the final third. And then going into next summer, or even to January into next summer, we're all sat here having the same conversation going, they've done the business to breach the gap. And now this is their season.
It does feel like it is the beginning of a new era, as opposed to being, right, we are now going. When we came down last time under Keith and then John Brady at the helm on the actual relegation, it was a bounce back. That was what the club were talking about. Everybody wanted. That's what John was so desperate to try and get over the line, and it took him a season longer than he wanted to, of course. But it was all about that. Whereas I feel now that there is a little bit more leeway. There is with me anyway, because I think we're almost not being fed that line. There's no on loan from League One stickers or any of that nonsense from 2000. James, you weren't here back then, but we have. But it was, there's none of that happening. It is just a case of, I suppose there's a silent acknowledgement that we were appalling for the last 6 months. And therefore we are literally at rock bottom, and the only way is to now just go and breathe and start again and just try and now forget everything else, live in the future, live in the present, and just go for what we can do, and try and get us back into a winning mentality, a positive mentality at least, because it's, losing every single week. I mean, it's hard enough for us as fans, but I mean, when you're a player on a pitch,
Yeah, it's just bringing a bit of joy back. That's all it is. Like, I wrote a piece in the paper last week, and that's what I said. I think Chris Hogg, forget about setting targets and aims and finishing top 7, top 10, top half. Hogg's first job is just to bring a bit of joy back to the club and to the fans. You know, obviously it's not going to be perfect. They're going to be tough days, and they're going to lose at home to Crawley or Newport, and there's going to be unhappy fans and stuff. But have good days as well. Have, win a few games, score a few goals, play some exciting football. It's been such a grind over the last 18 months. Even the second half of the season before under Nolan, he did a good job. He kept them up, but it was such a grind. And I just want to play. I want to see some exciting football. I want to see them have a go. Yeah, it'll be a bit chaotic maybe, and they'll give away some stupid goals, and you'll be scratching your head and you're going away frustrated. But if you're seeing your team have a go and play with a bit of freedom, then I think that alone goes a long way, especially if you've got young players, you've got a young manager, you've got potential investment coming in. You can see what's coming. You can see the future. I think if people see progress and they can see what might be ahead, then they give a lot more sort of leeway in the moment. Whereas before, it was just like getting from week to week, game to game. But now it's like, right, reset, let's set a foundation, let's bring a bit of joy back, and let's hopefully have a nice, solid, enjoyable season, and then we can go from there.
I would take something that, I mean, there's a game that lives long in my memory for some reason. It was an opening day game. We lost 3-1 at Sixfields to Stoke City. We're going back to like 98, 99, I think. Colin Hill got sent off for a ridiculous handball. He basically became a goalkeeper and picked it out of the top bins to make sure it didn't go in, getting sent off in the process. But then Carlo Corazin belted a free kick in, which I just remember. And we lost that game 3-1. But for some reason, there's still a happy memory of a ridiculous red card and then a really good free kick for us to get a goal. I would be perfectly happy on Saturday if somebody just did something audacious, like an overhead kick, and not necessarily had to score it, just did it on the halfway line for no reason whatsoever. And we could all just laugh about it and we can go, football's back, and we can enjoy it again. Because, I mean, it was hard enough recording podcasts after every flipping defeat last year, let alone having to, be live on the radio, Jake, throughout a game, commentating on it with Tim and whoever else, and then having to talk about it for an hour after, full-time whistle. James having to stand there and, listen to the same sound bites. It just drags you so far down. And you're right. From just, I suppose, I don't want to put words into your guys' mouth, but, for me, I need a lift. So it makes my Sunday evening recording a podcast happier and something to look forward to again, rather than something of going and turning around and going, seriously, what are we going to say that we haven't said a million times already this season? You don't mind it if that's another 4-0 win on a bounce, but when it's a 4-0 defeat or just a terrible performance yet again, it kills you. It absolutely does. Just your mentality just is in the sink. It's horrible. I wonder, because League Two, I can remember, Jake, you saying the last time we were in League Two, now it might have been the year that we went up, might have been the year that before that, you were talking about how maybe the fan base had a bit of League Two fatigue and wanted basically to get out to experience new things and to go to new clubs and bigger stadiums and the like. In a way, do you think actually it's a bit nice to be back in League Two? Though going back to those clubs that, like, I don't know, Gillingham springs to mind. It's not the greatest stadium in the world, but it's one that you instantly know stands out and you know exactly where it is.
Yeah, I don't know in terms of places to go. I imagine Cobblers fans would love to be going to Hillsborough and the King Power in a league game, etc. Maybe the prospect of just winning more games, will be an attractive proposition. Genuinely, it's been a slog in League One, and when you're a team that has such an obvious ceiling, there's only so many times you can be happy with kind of winning 10, 15 games a season to stay up, and then it lasts the way last season ended, just being back and being competitive in games and being able to be on the front foot more against teams that aren't so superior to you, like you play when you even in the top kind of 12 of League One, just seems to be on a different level to where the Cobblers could reach in the end. So I think there's a bit of that. I also don't think there's any taking League Two for granted this year that there may have been in the past. Cobblers are a big fish who, like we talked about, if the Cobblers are in League Two, usually we're having a conversation about what promotion position they're going to be targeting. Will it be automatics? Will it be playoffs as a minimum? There's still the hangover, like we said. There's still the anxiety. Even if it's at the front of your mind, if you're a supporter that said this is a fresh start and it's just gnawing away at the back, that you need to see that the Cobblers are good enough to stay in League Two first and foremost. So there's not that kind of apathy about, oh, who cares? We can go and beat Accrington Stanley or whatever. Who cares? It's more of okay, we can do that. That's important because we need to see that the Cobblers can do that this season. So it's a different, for all the reasons we've already spoken about. I think it's a completely different mindset for the Cobblers and a lot of supporters this year in League Two. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, actually.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting starting this Saturday. Swindon at Sixfields. Swindon, I always sort of see Swindon as being a team very much like, or a club very much like the Cobblers. Slightly bigger stadium than we've got, but they've always been, from my memory and from my life, they've always been in and around the same division as us, apart from that league that they had in the Premiership when it first started. It's always I think this is a good game to start the season with, because it's almost like this will give us a little bit of a barometer. I don't think Swindon are necessarily expecting to pull up any trees at either end of the division again, but you never know with Ian Holloway in charge. It could go really, really ridiculously one way or the other. So this will be a nice sort of test, I think, to sort of really see where we're at. But at the same time, I'm very aware that it's the opening day of the season, and I don't think that's our most successful match day fixture necessarily in the calendar. A bit like, not maybe as bad as Boxing Day, but it's not quite as good as it should maybe,
or any FA Cup game.
Oh yeah, well, we don't need it. What's the FA Cup?
Yeah.
What are we thinking for Saturday, guys? I mean, I know that you're not going to be able to turn around and say, oh, well, I've heard this is going to happen, or X, Y, and Z, so we're not going to pretend that we know anything. But are you expecting us to almost play in the same sort of way that we did with Leicester, or do you think there'll be a little bit more of kind of being allowed off the leash, so to speak, because we're not having to combat against what is essentially a Championship side?
I think it'll be a very different type of game, because obviously Leicester, especially Leicester style of football, is very extreme. So it's going to be more classic League Two. This is the big thing, I think, is how Hogg style of football, how this team do in League Two. So League Two is quite a unique division. You can't just play through the thirds and play through teams and pass teams off the pitch. It just doesn't work like that. And obviously, one slight concern I'd say so far is the set pieces. That's obviously a big thing in League Two. So yeah, I'd say that's the big intrigue for me is to see how they play, their style of play, how it matches up in League Two to a league, like you say, a very sort of typical League Two team. Yeah, I think like Jay said earlier, I just want to see a good performance, or at least signs of a good performance. You know what I mean? They're not going to be perfect. It's not going to click, and they're going to play amazing football, and it's all going to go well. It's going to be a bit disjointed. It's the first game of the season, but you just want to see those little partnerships, some nice little moves, some chances, some shots, maybe a goal or two, pushing the boat out. And like a draw and a good performance, I think would be. I feel like you really sort of trying to be as cautiously optimistic as that. A draw and a good performance. After last season, we just need to be like,
please.
I completely agree. I mean, that's exactly, I think, like you say, the big test is, I really like the way they're set up. They look like a really well-coached team. They've tried to play some really good football. They have at times. They have, they've defended well at times as well. Let's see how it all comes together in the heat of a competitive League Two game. And like James said there, the challenges that you face in kind of League Two in no other division really, of that set piece aspect, that physicality aspect. And let's see if they can stick to plan when the heat's on. Let's see, hopefully not on Saturday, but the big test in the first 6 weeks of the season will be what happens if it doesn't go their way in the first 15, 20 minutes. And if they have a setback, where's their mindset at? Has that been eradicated now? Will they fold like they did before? Because there's a lot of players there that were there last year, or has the mindset shifted? I don't want to see that tested on Saturday, if I'm honest. But I'd just love to see him on the front foot. I'd love to see him on the front foot, creating chances. They're wasteful at the minute. in terms of, like we talked about, the final third players that they have. So it might look like one where the Cobblers should win it, but it finishes 1-1. But we come away going, I tell you what, we'll take that if that's what it's going to look like for the rest of the season. Just, front foot, the team that's trying to win. Even if they don't, the team that's trying to win. That's what I'd love to see.
Yeah, I think me too. I like that thought of, like, at least if we look like we're getting into the position where we, I don't mind if I'm turning around on, Monday's pod next week and going, flipping it, we should have scored about 4 goals, and we didn't. At least I will be looking at it in a positive way of we got into those positions to actually score. Thank you so much, guys, for coming on. It's been great. Very, very quickly, I want a finishing position for you, which I know we both hate. But more importantly, are we going to have a smiley fan base this year, or an unhappy one again? James, what do you reckon? Finishing position first.
I'll go 11th, and I'll say smiley for the most part, but there's always going to be some bad days.
Love it. Jake, same for you?
I say smiley for the most part, and this sounds like I'm copying, but I have actually got it written down 11th.
There you go.
Although I also have in brackets next to it, 1st to 24th, question mark. Because conceivably the Cobblers could finish in any of those positions, which is, I think is quite exciting.
I did a thing on Twitter today where I asked fans to tweet me, like, where do you think the club are going to finish? And I think one person said title and another one said 23rd, which just goes to show that it's just, no one knows anything. Like, who's going to happen? But yeah, let's go 11. Nice solid in the table. You can't go far wrong there.
Nice. I like it. Thank you very much, guys. It's been brilliant having you on again. And thank you for listening to It's All Cobblers to Me. You can support the show at patreon.com/Cobblers to Me. Make sure you go and listen to Jake on the Cobblers show on Radio Northampton. Read James's articles in the Chron. Maybe don't use the website. Go and pick up a paper. It's better for them. Right. Love you both. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.
All right.
Bye.
Way, there's the cup. There's the pictures you'll see on tomorrow's back pages. The Cobblers are going through into Division 1. Bring them on, because we deserve it.
Find the biggest voices in sport on the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Like me, Andy from Let's Talk FPL, your home for everything Fantasy Premier League. Whether you're playing for the first time this season or you've spent years picking the wrong captain, I've got you covered with transfers, captaincy, chip strategy and everything you need to stay ahead of your mini-league rivals. With new episodes throughout the week, all season long, search for Let's Talk FPL wherever you get your podcasts, and let's get you that mini-league win.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Find the biggest voices in sport on the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Like Fantasy Football Scout. If you want to dominate your mini leagues and make fantasy football easy this season, then make sure you subscribe to our podcast for all the tips, stats and analysis you need from Fantasy Football Scout's elite team of experts. All you need to do is search Fantasy Football Scout wherever you get your podcasts.
Sports Social Podcast Network.